Low gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. 10 minutes per side of the white pieces. Okay. I'll practice this out to finish, and then review this game move by move. Show the continuation of the tactic that won the game for white. So, no matter what happens to this bishop, and this is computer best move, bishop to e5, then white's going to capture the rook on a8. I think pretty much regardless of how black, regardless of anything other ways for black to play. So now this is just horribly crushing. White's up white's up 12 points of material. It's not even clear how white should proceed. D4 wins more material just directly and clearly. I think we can continue to challenge on the e-file. This game is going to be over quite quickly. Here we have a position where white might want to circle this is called circling the wagons. Bring pieces in close to your king to help ward off an attack. I mean, queen takes f8 is an option. We're gonna get some nice piece trades in and just dust off this particular game all the way. We'll try queen g5, and so my pawn played away from the mate threat and from the exchange. You know what? On second thought, let's just do this the old-fashioned way. Queen takes g7 check, queen takes g7, rook takes g7 check, king takes g7, and white has overpowering force. Using the rook's long-range capabilities here. It's a nifty maneuver that allows white to start picking off pawns, just opening up the board really to make a queen. Alright, so that plays the game all the way through to checkmate. Is this game accurate? I didn't take notice. No. My opponent's play was very inaccurate. The game itself has my opponent's play as very inaccurate, and my play not all that much more accurate. These things do happen. And played out till end, we'll soon see the results of how accurate that is. But I'm going to go through a good portion of this game move by move. Probably not too long after where my opponent resigned, or maybe I'll go all the way to against computer end. So yeah, I add a good number of computer moves to both sides. Well, best moves supplied by me, and computer moves supplied by the computer to pick up where Young Hove left off. But then played out all the way to the end. The game is therefore more accurate. Let's go over the game. Just the moves. Just the 9.5 full moves made. 19 ply. So some say the best way to refute a gambit is to accept it. King's Gambit with pawn to f4, an opponent accepts. It's definitely a playable way for black to play against white's King's Gambit. Played knight f3. I've seen this now. Did I see this earlier today already? Not sure. Usually capturing on d5. And with knight, with bishop to g4. Consolidating my extra pawn. I don't have an extra pawn. What are you talking about? Consolidating my strong central pawn with pawn to c4. And I don't know if, maybe my opponent and I got a little bit into nuance here with the pawn moves, and some games would progress with pieces developing quickly after an early open e-file. But on the other hand, pawn to c6 makes a lot of sense, because then if the pawn on d5 is meant to, if the pawn on d5 captures, then knight captures on c6, and I think black will be happy with his development at that point in the game. Yeah, so it will be an mostly open board, and probably a really strange and tactical game to follow. So I played knight c3, and with bishop b4, I followed with queen to e2 check. And when black plays queen e7, I thought I might have had something over here in the corner, or at least I would liquidate that pawn so I didn't have to continue to calculate with regards to it. At any rate, most of these moves are keeping the progress bar on the left here level until bishop takes c3. So why is this? This is really comes down to this tactic. Bishop takes c3, so I have some material to make up, but I sure can do it with pawn takes b7, and the rook is going to fall at no matter what, almost. Not only that, but this pawn's going to turn into a queen, and I might even have a bishop to pick up at the end on c3. So I think the best way is just to proceed as we did in the game. So maybe a little bit disappointing in terms of a review. So you have my condolences about that, but I would like to see if there's moves for white here other than c takes b7. Alright, so we see that c takes b7 is good, but queen takes e7 beforehand is also strong for white. Quite a difference between the two, so c takes b7, the winning move, signified here as a great move, and I think so too. The move can be overlooked while calculating by either side, because the queen is technically pinned to her king while it's white's turn to move. Otherwise, the king's on f8, for instance. There's no tactic on b7. C takes b7 and queen takes b7. Then white recoups some material with b takes c3, but I think that material ends up being 1 point in favor of white. Let's just play that out so I don't have that wrong. Let's see, it's white's turn to move, so we'll play a non-move. King to f8, and then we're playing this move even if it's against the grain here. Yeah, I know I could capture on e7, but that's not really what we're testing, so we'll try pawn takes b7, queen takes b7, pawn takes, probably with the b pawn here, although it's not certain. Pawn takes c3, pawn takes c3, d takes c3 rather. And white's still doing well with only a 1 point advantage in material. There's a lot of other positional issues for black to solve, but sometimes you only really can calculate to who has a lead in material, if any. More time, and maybe we would consider factors like if these doubled pawns aren't that bad. Black's moved his king for literally almost no game reason, right? This is for review game reason. Black has some really poorly developed pieces sitting on, not even poorly developed, they're just not developed at all. White has positional trumps. There's also the threat of bishop takes f4 more naturally than queen takes b2, the counter threat. We might play as white here, take time out to play pawn to b3 and then capture on f4, because attempts to attempts to hold on to the f4 pawn are not all that promising. In this position, black's just doing poorly. With it's black's turn to move here. In a practical way, black might play knight to d7, and if white's asleep at the wheel, so to speak, then bishop to h3, and black can pick up the rook. Black can give away the rook in favor for white's queen, or else if white wants to delay that for some reason, then that makes it even worse. So anyway, this is all sort of spawned out of this strange brainchild about the position anyway. So we'll get back to less strange part and say that here, white to play and win. C takes b7 is the way to go. We're going to get a rook on. You're going to remove a rook. You're going to capture a black rook on a8 while also promoting the queen. All right. Well, I'm going to take a quick break, but we're gonna stay online. I need to fix myself some water or juice. I'll let this play out in the. Oh, that's nifty. I'll let this play out, and I'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes. Hello there. Excuse me, I kind of got sidetracked there. Let's play some blitz chess. At the next win, we'll review, and then that'll be it for this broadcasting session. Okay. That game, I mean, you mostly saw it there, folks. Let's go over this game in detail. It was a good game, I guess. And not all that accurate, actually. This game was quite inaccurate. I felt like uh, Black gained a lot of space and maybe some well placed pieces without any, like, one, you know, you can't say tangible, but if it were real pieces in a real board, without any one tangible uh, combination or tactic to put Black ahead by, like, a knight or something like that, or a knight to a pawn or a rook or whatever it is. The Black just struggled to break three. Excuse me, struggled to break free. I struggled to break three. I was born that way. Again, because I'm at 8 at the start. Important point here for Black was knight a6. To play it is one thing, but to calculate it as the thing to do ahead of time is another thing. You get into some of the other potential moves, and it's not so easy to see that on a6 the Black Knight is not immediately assailable, cannot immediately be captured on a6. There's a white light squared bishop on e2 that would, but his own knight blocks the attack. So I say then that here, like the uh, review shows, knight a6 is a good move. It's the only good move for Black. You know, all the way from a slight advantage to a pretty darn losing disadvantage. So I'm glad that I eventually found knight a6, realizing that White's light squared bishop was not covering a6 at that moment. Okay, and that this stymied any thoughts that White might have of a fork on c7. Knight takes c7 check, and then the rook's gone, so a rook and a pawn, and the knight's not gonna survive this attack. But I'll have a knight will get giving away a full rook and pawn. My pawn to c6 has some sort of bad, knight to d6 check. It puts White's knight right in the thick of things, while also being protected on d6. Like king f8 becomes probably the best move, or maybe it's king d7, but that looks not so good. So, that c7 was ill-advised. So then perhaps in this position, simple castles kingside would have done well for Black. Yeah, we see that as the second best move in a close way to rook c8. That torch suggests rook c8. Kingside castles also fine. The knight is pushed back to c3, and it looks like Black has some life in an attack here. Traded pieces on a6. I should have lost my rook here on b8. This is not accurate, Jordan. I do lose my rook on the very next chance that my opponent has to capture it. So at least things aren't all too crazy. Yeah, a lot of these moves are just there's a pocket of accuracy amid a mostly inaccurate game. And just, yeah, this was not a good game. I'm moving back to blitz and late in the day and a little bit out of my usual schedule, mostly because of a snowstorm here in the northeast of the United States. And I played the correct move when it counted. Here, black plays bishop takes c3, skewering the queen and king. Bishop's backed by black's queen. And getting the follow-up correct as well here is no small feat, no small task, and it's checkmate on the very next move on e2. So, yeah, I guess when you say in blitz chess, and sometimes sometimes you just keep playing. It's not always easy to do so, but you just got to keep playing. Here I'm a full rook. Worse for the wear here. I'm a full rook. Worse for the wear. But I said keep playing. There's pieces on the board. The queens are still there. There's a number of pawns. Maybe something will show up, and so it did, and it won me the game, and I'm glad about that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.